Wow. A lot has happened during this trade deadline, and the St. Louis Blues did absolutely nothing. But I want to talk to you. I want to react. This is a specialty show, and let's get into it right here on Locked On Blues.
Hey, this is Brayden Schenn. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, it's going to be simple. We're going to be reacting to the trade deadline. A lot of moves happened throughout the NHL. We have a very scary looking Central Division. And overall, the St. Louis Blues did not do anything. And Doug Armstrong, I guess, is happy with where this team is at, despite the fact that they lost their best defenseman. However, I am still going to talk to you all about what happened today. And also, we're going to talk about Brayden Schenn and the fact that he did not waive his no trade clause to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That, to me, was a bombshell in full transparency. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can give $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, the chat is open, so if you want to comment today, you can do so. I don't do many of these specialty shows, so if you're not watching live, I will be doing one at the end of the season. However, let's talk about the trade deadline today. I got an email around 11 a.m. Eastern time that Doug Armstrong will be talking to the media about 3:30. And I thought that was a very strange email to get at that time because a lot of general managers are still sometimes working on deals even till the very last minute of the deadline. So usually they can't talk until like a couple hours later. Another team that I cover, I just got off of the call with the GM. So as you can imagine, sometimes it does take a little while. When I got that immediate email today that Doug Armstrong wanted to speak at 3:30, that indicated to me that there would be no moves made today from the St. Louis Blues. This is the second season where the St. Louis Blues did not make any moves. Last season they didn't. I mean, unless you take Subban from the T-Birds. But other than that, they didn't do anything. This was a seller's market this season. And the thing that gets me, being a fan of the Blues, right, is I want this team to be a playoff contending team. I do. However, when the best defenseman, Colton Parayko, is now out for the rest of the regular season, and again, it's being reevaluated in 6 weeks. So it's not like he's going to be clear to play if this team somehow makes it to the playoffs, which I don't think they will. But the point is that they could have at least made some trades. I'm not saying get a huge name, but even just draft picks would have been nice. I think the problem is that Doug is just so content with what this team is doing at the moment. But the reality is this team, it's not good enough. They don't have enough depth. And we can talk all day long about the fact that they have played phenomenal since the break, and they have. And I will attest to that. However, when you play against teams like the Dallas Stars, and the Blues clearly did struggle in that game, it shows their weaknesses. And I just don't believe that this is a team that has enough young talent. And that's why the draft is so important and having draft picks is so important. So a part of me was really discouraged, was really annoyed, honestly, seeing that the Blues did not make any moves at all. And again, I was not surprised, as I said, when I did get that media email, but it just at the moment did not make sense to me. Doug Armstrong did state today during his media availability, we were in contact with some teams on some hockey trades. First off, I wrote down that quote. Obviously, hockey trades, Doug. Anyways, going on. At the end of the day, we ended up moving forward with the team that is playing excellent hockey right now. Wow. Yep. And the crazy thing is the Blues did call up Matthew Kessel from Springfield. And I'm not hating on Matthew Kessel. I'm not hating on Tyler Tucker, but none of those players are Colton Parayko. So while, yes, the Blues have been playing excellent hockey since the break, they've been doing that with Colton Parayko. So without Colton Parayko, I really just don't see this team being so-called excellent. And I know one player can make a difference because when Robert Thomas was hurt at the beginning of the season, the team clearly struggled. So again, that's when Doug had to make some moves and be more aggressive. But guess what? He did not do that. And I'm frustrated. I am really, really frustrated. The Blues had an opportunity today to be a selling team. And I know that sounds like giving up, but it's really not. Getting draft picks is not giving up. That's called thinking about the future of the team. And I don't know necessarily what players were kind of being talked about. I know Brayden Schenn, and I'm going to get into that. But other than that, I don't know who. I don't think Jordan Kyrou was going to because of his contract. It's huge, and I don't think any team was going to take that on. But maybe there would have been a team interested in a guy like I'm just throwing this out here because, again, I don't know necessarily, but a Zach Bolduc. And I'm just saying that name because, again, he's young. He has potential. Hasn't been super great this season. But, again, the Blues have a lot of older players. They have Ryan Suter, Cam Fowler, and it's nothing personal against them. I just wouldn't see any teams really taking them on necessarily. So, again, I was very frustrated with the lack of movement today from the Blues. And I can understand that they have played great hockey. And I can appreciate that. I do appreciate that. And I'm not in any single way disputing that the fact that the Blues have been playing great hockey because they have been. But what I can confidently say is Doug Armstrong not finding any matches kind of rubbed me the wrong way because, again, besides Holloway and Broberg, I don't really see anything positive that Armstrong has done for the team this season. I mean, nobody was expecting Ryan Suter to be playing as well as he has been. Oh, and let's not talk about the fact that Cam Fowler, who the Blues got from Anaheim, ended up being one of the better defensemen on this team, but not guys. I even forgot about Justin Folk. I'm sorry, I forgot about Nick Leddy. I'm just saying that the Blues could have been a little bit more aggressive and just try to get draft picks. I would have been fine with a third rounder even because that is value. I just don't understand. Again, standing pat's cool and all if you're a team like Winnipeg, even they made moves, but every single good team made moves. Who am I kidding? We're going to get into that. But when you're a team that is struggling, because they have been, you then sell to get draft picks or assets or prospects. So you don't just stand pat. I believe the Canadians were another team that didn't do anything either today. But if Colton Parayko didn't get injured, maybe I would have felt a little bit different about this. But obviously with him being out, I mean, I understand, right, that Doug wanted to wait and see, what was going on. But this team is now in the worst possible case scenario. The St. Louis Blues are going to finish as the best worst team again. That is my bold prediction. Not even a bold prediction. That's just my prediction at this point. This team is going to finish like 2 or 3 points out of a wild card spot. They're going to get the 16th overall pick again. And you know what? It's like deja vu. And until Doug Armstrong is out being general manager, it's going to happen time and time again. I am so appreciative of Doug Armstrong and all that he's done here in St. Louis. I am. I mean, he got us a cup. For that, I am forever thankful. So thank you, Doug. However, he is hurting this team. I find it so difficult to believe, and I'm getting fired up right now. So difficult to believe that no team had actual good interest in any of the Blues players. I'm sorry, but that is actually insane to me. Oh, and let's not talk about all the awful contracts on this team, how every single player seems to have a no trade clause. It is absolutely ridiculous. A couple players do deserve it. And one of those players did effectively deny waiving it today. And I could not be more supportive of this because I feel like this player has earned that right more so than anything, and that is Captain Brayden Schenn. And I'm going to talk to you about it, but first, I'm going to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I miss my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Brayden Schenn denied waiving his no trade clause to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs, which then allowed the Maple Leafs to acquire Philadelphia Flyers forward Scott Laughton. You might be wondering, Haley, what is the connection? I cover both of these teams. So, yeah, there's always a connection. A little fun fact, Brayden Schenn actually gave Scott Laughton the assist on Laughton's first goal ever in the NHL. Fun fact. Two were teammates, actually, at one point. So, anyways, I cannot hate on Brayden Schenn's decision. I can't. You know, it's funny. Last year when Torrey Krug didn't want to waive his no trade clause to go to Philadelphia, it's always Philadelphia. I respected it. I think at the end of the day, players do have the right not to want to waive their no trade clauses. And clearly, Schenn is happy here. I mean, yes, if he did go to Toronto, he would have been reunited with Craig Berube again. And I think that would have been kind of cool. But at the end of the day, it is his decision to make. And he decided not to. And you can't be mad at a player for doing that. And last year, when Torrey Krug did not waive it, a lot of people, and I'm saying a lot of people, were really hating on him for that. But players have it for a reason. It's to protect them. Clearly, Brayden Schenn loves it here in St. Louis. And I think at the end of the day, you have to respect the fact that your captain did not want to leave. And sure, could the Blues have gotten that first rounder? Absolutely. The same one that Philadelphia got? 100%. But Brayden Schenn is loyal. I mean, people are saying, "Oh, Brayden Schenn helped save the Flyers franchise," and I get, it's funny because somebody said, "Oh, he's forever a Flyer," and it's ironic, right? Because he did play in Philadelphia, and then Hextall treated him during the draft. But I think that Schenn's just really happy here in St. Louis, and I don't necessarily can understand, in a sense, how people could be upset. Another team that he was linked to was actually the New Jersey Devils. But yeah, Brayden Schenn was the top prospect amongst all the players for Toronto. So after Brayden then denied it, then they went to Scott Laughton. I know we talked about brother versus brother versus brother versus brother with the Schenns and the Josephs. Well, Luke Schenn was traded once again, this time to the Winnipeg Jets. So he's back in the Central Division. And for Luke, I mean, he's on a team that's going to probably win the Stanley Cup if a Canadian team ever wins it again, which would definitely be the Jets with how they're playing right now. So he got dealt twice in this trade deadline so far. So no, that Pittsburgh game will not be featuring the double brother matchup. But overall, I think that the only news that came out of the deadline for St. Louis was all about Brayden Schenn. And to me, that is ridiculous. And I love Brayden Schenn, and I'm a defender of Brayden Schenn. But how come that was the only player that was in, talks or speculation? I just don't understand it. Was Doug not trying to sell? Was he not trying to get draft picks. I still will never be able to fully process what happened. But what I can say, though, is that Brayden Schenn staying in St. Louis should not have been the determining factor over the Blues not doing anything during the deadline. If, again, he has a right not to waive, by the way, his no trade clause, but if he did, he would have the Blues would have probably got what the Philadelphia Flyers got with him, a prospect, and then a first rounder in 2027. I know it's not ideal 2027, but at the end of the day, you still get a first round draft pick, and you can't say no to that. It's only a couple years away, but I don't know. It doesn't really feel like it has anything to do with Schenn. It's an upsetting day, right? I mean, this isn't like it's a good trade deadline, and yeah, no moves is bad. And you can't blame Schenn. You have to blame Doug Armstrong because Doug Armstrong was the one that gave him the no trade clause. And again, you cannot be upset with players that don't want to waive it. But Doug Armstrong gave out so many no trade clauses. This summer, I did an episode and we went over all of the contracts and all the guys that had a no trade clause. And it is ridiculous. I hate to sound this way. I'm about to sound a type of way, and I'm sorry. But no player on the St. Louis Blues, besides a couple players, are deserving of a no trade clause. And again, we can get into that later, but all I'm going to say is Schenn is one of them. I think he deserves it. So I love Brayden Schenn. Like, he does the intro to my podcast. But the point is, Doug Armstrong, I'm happy that his time is almost up as GM. Thankful for the cup. Very annoyed about today. And I think I'm going to continue to be annoyed about today. This isn't a trade deadline where you can kind of look at it and say, oh, well, nothing really that great happened. Teams were buying, especially the good playoff contending teams. And not for nothing, but if the Boston Bruins are able to trade away their captain, some of the players that have been on that team for a very long time, some of their very good players, the Blues could have figured out a way to get rid of some of their good players too for draft picks and assets. And that is how you do the trade deadline. I'm really in disbelief right now that the Toronto Maple Leafs had Brayden Schenn as their number one. And because he didn't waive it, they went and they got Scott Laughton from Philadelphia. And then the Flyers get another first round draft pick. But, that's how you do a rebuild. And I have to give Philadelphia credit for that, honestly. All that they got out of today, I mean, you get a first rounder, and knowing that could have been St. Louis's, and I'm not blaming Schenn, I'm just saying the factual statement of the Blues could have had that. It's frustrating, but I think it's even more frustrating that Doug Armstrong set to meet with media this morning, and I just knew that they weren't going to do anything. I'm very disappointed. I am extremely disappointed. How are you feeling about this trade deadline? Are you okay with it, them standing pat? Are you disappointed? I want to know because I feel like the fan base, we're kind of like 50-50 right now. And I can't put into words my level of frustration. They do, and I saw a comment on YouTube, we're live on YouTube, and J-Rock says, I don't think it is that frustrating. They have too many players in this system right now. And while that is true, I am going to say this, that Doug Armstrong has been very persistent about the fact that he is not going to call up some of those guys that are on the Thunderbirds right now, some of the guys that have been playing excellent hockey. Yes, I'm talking about Dvorsky. And that, to me, is what makes me frustrated because while they do have a lot of guys in this system, they're not utilizing them. And not for nothing, Perunovic was in the system. What happened to him? He didn't pan out. The point that I'm trying to make is I don't feel really good about the system at the moment. I don't, because it's all about how you develop players. Where is the player development from Zach Bolduc this season? And I'm not asking that to sound like a wise blank. I'm asking that because I genuinely am very confused about what Doug is doing. And that is the honest truth. I want a GM that's transparent and that's looking for either this team to make it to the playoffs or to give the younger guys a chance so the Blues end up getting a better draft pick. It's very beneficial either way. If the Blues finish as the best worst team again, I'm going to crash out. I'm just going to say that now because they had so many opportunities this season. They struggled. Okay? And Burned Oils, I actually like your comment a lot. I do find Doug's work as of late to be rather stale, and that is a good way to put it. I just don't get how you can do nothing today. Nothing. But I'm going to actually put some comments up on this for this next segment if you guys don't mind. J-Rock. I like the name J-Rock, by the way. I like some of your usernames. Bolduc is a regular in the lineup. What are you hoping for from Bolduc? His trajectory is fine at the moment. Have to ask about Zach Dean if you want to be critical. Okay, that's valid. I expected more goals from Zach Bolduc. I expected him to make more plays from Zach Bolduc. He's been quiet. You know, it's funny. At the beginning of the season, and we're going way back to training camp, I just remember Doug Armstrong saying he's a top 6 player. Do you look at Zach Bolduc and think to yourself, wow, this is a top 6 player? And I'm sorry, but the answer for me at least is no. And again, I am not trying to come on here and criticize the team because, again, this is my team. But I'm just saying that I don't really see the Blues having guys like him succeed. I'm sorry, but I don't. Somebody said about Zach Dean. Yeah. That's fine. I mean, yeah. And he hasn't, okay. He hasn't really been that great. Let's be honest. In his last 10 games, he hasn't put up any goals. He's only recorded 4 points. No, it's not 4 points. He's only recorded 2 points. My bad. With 2 assists. Yeah. And I watch a lot of Springfield hockey. So I feel like he has been disappointing. So again, like I'm just very frustrated. Snuggie, yes, and I'm happy J Rock said this. Huge fan of Snuggie. Excited for him to come here when he's done college. I am such a huge fan of him. So again, another player that I am excited about. Somebody says we don't need draft picks. We need players that are ready or almost ready to play. And while yes, I agree, I am saying too that getting a nice first round draft pick for 2027 would not be a bad thing because again, you would be getting dealt a prospect. I think that it's most important for the Blues to get a player that is either in the league already playing or a player that is ready to play in the league next season. I don't necessarily think, though, it's ever a bad thing to get a first-round draft pick, and that's just coming from me, especially if it's a good first-round draft pick. Somebody says Bolduc has 4 goals in the last 5 games. I said and if you're watching from the beginning of the episode, I said post-break, he has been playing good hockey. I am talking about this season as a whole. He blended in, especially during that middle portion of the season. I said as a whole that the entire team has been playing fantastic hockey since the break. And I gave them credit, and I'm not taking that away. But I'm looking at the season overall, and I'm not just looking at post break. I'm not like that. To me just sounds a little bit, iffy. I mean, this season he has 10 goals, 12 assists, 22 points. Again, I like Zach Bolduc. I do. But when my general manager, Doug Armstrong, said that he was a top 6 player, I just did not see it, especially this season. And I rooted for him at training camp. I did. I just don't see him being a top 6 player. Maybe one day, maybe in a couple seasons he will be. I think that there's still time for him to grow. I just don't see that this season, and that is okay. He's only 22 years old. He's still young. It's not like he's somebody that's 29. He's a young player, and that's totally okay. But I'm just saying that overall, I just expected a little bit more out of him too. So he's only played 78 games total in the NHL throughout the past couple seasons. So again, last year he only played 25 games and posted 9 points with 5 goals and 4 assists. This season, obviously, better, playing more games, 53 games with 10 goals, 12 assists, and 22 points. And he's plus 14, which is good. But I don't think that he is bad. I'm just saying I expected more out of him. So that's where things are at. And I do understand the coaching changes, 100% going from Banny to Coach Montgomery, and I get that. Again, I don't like using that as excuses, and that's just me. I watch a lot of hockey. I know you do too as well. And again, you should still be playing fine no matter who's coaching. Yeah. It's okay to be a little disappointed. It's okay to not be disappointed. You know why? Because this is what makes great hockey talk. Now, as much as I want to continue talking about the Blues, I want to address this one thing. Brad Marchand is a Florida Panther. And I know this is like super random. I love that we made Marchand cry during the Stanley Cup Finals, but isn't it so weird? Like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, wow, that's really weird. Wow, that was, at least to me, the most shocking thing that came out of this trade deadline. Does anybody else have anything that was shocking for them during this trade deadline? It doesn't have to be Blues related. I know we didn't have that much, shocking news that happened. But I do want to know if you had any necessarily trades where your mind was kind of like blown for a second. Mine was Brad Marchand. I really was not expecting him to go to Florida. I thought Vegas. It's always weird when a player who's been with the team for such a long time ends up getting traded somewhere else, especially with the Panthers and how they beat the Bruins. But to me, that was at least a little bit shocking. So let me know in the comments down below. The Blues, they do play tonight in Anaheim. Yes, Cam Fowler returns he's not getting traded. That sounded like he was getting traded. He's not. He returns to his former team he returns to playing against his former team for the first time. Yeah, people were actually talking about Rantanen. Yeah, so that's true. Oh yeah, and Carlo, that was crazy too. And Charlie McAvoy. So many things happened today. I can't I have a friend actually that's a Bruins fan, and him and I beef all the time because I bring up the Stanley Cup, and he hates that. So I texted him and I said, wow, Charlie, Marchand, Carlo. And he said, I'm at a loss for words. And I said, are you okay? And he said, no. And I said, yeah, I wouldn't be either. Like, that's so crazy. I mean, it is what it is. But I'm like, whoa, that's insane. I'll probably come on this weekend to do another episode. Yeah. I will say this. The good thing about the Blues not making any moves is that we have no new players to talk about, which means that we get to stick with our guys, and they have good chemistry as it is. And I really want this team to make the playoffs. I love the Blues. I really love the Blues. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. And like always, let's go Blues.